You're live.
Good morning. Welcome to the April 22nd, 2026 meeting of the Commission on Ethics and Lobbying in Government. We have a quorum, and I'm going to ask our Executive Director, Sanford Berlin, to discuss the logistics of today's meeting.
Thank you, Chair James. This meeting is being held in accordance with and pursuant to the provisions of the state's open meeting law and executive law, section 94. Both the meeting room we're using today, the New York State Conference Center at 25 Beaver Street in Manhattan, and the conference room at the Commission's offices at 540 Broadway in Albany during open session. The open session is also being live streamed, and you can find the link on our website at ethics.ny.gov. Note too that Commissioners Austin and Edwards are participating in this meeting remotely by video conference pursuant to Public Officers Law Section 103-A and the Commission rules and resolution for remote participation on account of extraordinary circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the public session on March 25th. Are there any corrections to the proposed minutes?
We have had several corrections communicated to the council's office. Commissioner Edwards had a correction to make to the Education Committee report found on page 6. Page 6 of the public session minutes, third paragraph. There's going to be an additional sentence added to the end of that current paragraph. That additional concluding sentence will read, further discussion of the committee's proposal to revise the 2025-28 action plan was tabled until the April Commission meeting. Vice Chair Ayers has also communicated a correction.
To the executive session.
Yes, for executive
That's
session.
correct. Yes, just that correction to the public session minutes.
Oh, is there a motion to approve the minutes as
Correct.
corrected? Thank you, Reagan. Commissioner Karras seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a report from staff. First, we'll discuss the operations update. We're down to tab B.
Thank you, Chair James. As we've been doing, for the sake of time, I'm going to be very brief in discussing the operations report for March. If anyone has any questions, any comments, suggestions, or clarifications, please let me know. But very briefly, page 1, investigations and enforcement. You'll see that our overall count of open and pending matters is down 7. Advice and guidance, a little bit lower, but not much in March as compared with February. 2026 is running ahead of 2025, and that was a record year. So guidance requests continue to run at an extremely high level. Lobbying division, March was a monthly reporting month, so you'll see that the numbers are up in terms of overall filings and in terms of inquiries filled by the lobbying help desk, way up. And I believe that's, at least in part and probably in large part, a function of the new training cycle that Justin is out there for the second 3-year period. Remarkable what's coming on that. Financial disclosure, over 144 notices of delinquency were issued in March, with a total of 154 for the year 2026. There are only 47 outstanding at this point. I should note that with respect to candidates for state office, statewide office, at this point, 3 notices of delinquency have been issued, and those are now posted on the website. Over 28,000 notifications to non-academic files, the upcoming May 15th filing deadline for financial disclosure statements has gone out. It's a high number. Training unit, first quarter of the year, the total is over 41,000. That is still about half of the amount we need to run in order to hit our target of over 337. Executive branch employees, and we'll be talking about that later in this morning's session. The all-time total now is approaching 668,000. It's a big number. Compliance audit and review numbers are back up. Last month, the total is consistent with 2,122. And eventually, if we can make it to a full complement of auditors in the group, we'll make to see a bigger number on that. Finally, communications division, another solid month, could do with activity with 4 e-blast newsletters and 4 proactive media outreaches. Any questions? Thank you.
Budget update?
We have closed out the fiscal year. It had been our objective to have no surplus at the end of the year because of which in our accounting program, we did end up with surplus at the end of the year. That will just go back to the general fund. We keep a close watch on that. The actual spend in March was about $10,000. But we had to cushion into that so we wouldn't have an issue. But that's how the year ended. And that's with us carrying a head count ultimately of 63 at that level. Questions? The next tab.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is there a drop? I'm looking at communications. Why is there a drop in website users between year to year, January 1 to March 31 in 2025 and 26?
Yeah, sure. The website usage do fluctuate a bit. The drop is mainly driven in drops to the ethics and training pages. And I think it's because we had such a big training push at the end of last year. But if you've noticed, this month they've gone up again versus last month. So they are creeping back up.
It's just like 30,000 is a big number. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll talk about it when the committee's report. I think we're going to see that number surge again as the follow-up program is implemented by the
Okay.
It's a lot more people. They have been contacted. You're not seeing the effect of the April campaign, but that will show up next month.
Okay, thank you.
Some websites. Any other questions? The next tab is one you've seen before the two documents. One shows our anticipated spend through current fiscal year, which is now 26, 27. With the full budget that we've requested, that is inclusive of the $250,000 that would be in the Senate bill. It's not in the Assembly, not in the governor's proposal. Without that $250,000, the spending is down. Although visually the hit is on the personnel services side of the budget. In fact, we're going to have to move money from personal services to NPS, non-personal services, in order to just pay our bills going forward. As a result of the way we strip things down to meet the target of no growth.
I have a question.
Fiscal year, yes.
On the personnel services, why is there the big jump in July?
We have several year, we have an additional payroll. So when we have 3 payrolls as opposed to 2 payrolls, the number goes up. And then that happens periodically throughout the year. So it creates that funkiness. It always seems on. It's not flat, but it's the way. Thank you for that. Any questions? Next tab, Diems, almost entirely for the March meeting. And the total is $7,470.88. We posted these. That incidentally is the year-to-date figure. And the total spend on per diems for the prior fiscal year for 25-26 was $216,226.52. It's about $10,000, $11,000 less than we spent last year. Probably the result of a little bit less committee activity this year. Countering that was the fact that there was an increase in the hourly rate as a result of the matching with the judicial base salary, which went up last year. Staffing update. As I noted at the March meeting, we successfully recruited to fill one of the vacancies, a surgeon vacancy in the audit, compliance audit and review group. And we'll go through details of that at the next meeting. I do want to say that a little bit rushed toward the end of the last meeting, and I mentioned that Sarah Biancamini had been promoted to the Director of Administration. Didn't have a chance to talk about her qualifications. Sarah joined us in 2024 as Deputy Director. She's really become the central and instrumental part of the entire operation. She holds a Bachelor of Science from Niagara University, and she has an MPH in Policy and Administration from SUNY Albany. Before she came here, she was in the State Office of Information Technology Services, and before that, she was with the State Education Department. Extremely well qualified for the position and has been doing a phenomenal job. I would congratulate her again and get her resume out there because it is impressive. Another positive announcement, Taylor Smith in the communications group has been promoted to communications specialist. She joined the agency in 2023 as a communications assistant. She has been instrumental in creating our social media program, drafts our press releases. We've seen a lot of her work come across both in the press releases and some of the daily materials that are distributed to you from the clippings. She holds a master's degree summa cum laude from SUNY Albany in communications and political communications, and a BA from Oneonta in political science. And again, she's been truly a great asset to have. So congratulations to Taylor on her promotion. We are on the staffing front continuing to recruit to replace the trainer that we were losing in the training group that will still, if we fill that position. And I know Marlena and Audrey have been working hard reviewing resumes, and we'll probably put out another posting and maybe expand the reach of the posting. Without the other vacancy filled, the group is really hobbled. They're doing a phenomenal job. We'll talk about that more in the committee reports, but really important to us to, and that would be our priority fill, frankly. In this fiscal year, if we have the funding to fill that missing training position. We're also down an admin in that group. That too is all. This means others have to pitch in. More detailed, which is quite substantial. And that is the staffing.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the reports from the chair and the committees. The chair does not have a report. Is I don't believe there's an administration committee on it.
I have a report from the Education Committee.
No, right, okay. So the education committee,
Okay, good morning. I don't, is it okay to go?
yes, go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
All right. Good morning. At our March meeting, the commissioners approved staff's proposal to bring into compliance an estimated 32,000 employees who did not complete their ethics training in 2024 and 2025. In tab 4, you will find a timeline for implementing that plan. No action is required at this time. However, before staff moves forward, we just want to give commissioners a chance to review and ask and answer any questions or concerns you might have. And with that, I'll ask Executive Director Berlin to give a quick summary and open the floor for questions and answers, questions and concerns.
Yes, at the March Commission meeting, the Commission approved the training unit's proposal to move forward to expedite, accelerate, focus on first in this calendar year, the training of those individuals who didn't take or receive ethics training in 24, 25, and in some instances in both years. Some 31,000, I think the number is now, plus individuals who did not, so far as our records show. And we await further updates from the employing agencies, but our records show about 31,000 individuals now who didn't receive training in either year. The emphasis is being put on those individuals, get them trained first in this year. We have another look at a bigger number. It's coming down as we work with agencies in the update, our database, some 50,000 plus individuals who didn't train in 2025. And it's to train them. The next, any questions? The commission approved the approach. The staff is implementing that. And the timeline under tab F shows the steps that have already been taken. Commissioner Grillmaker.
Was there any pattern in the where the training wasn't completed? Like, was there a disproportionate one agency as opposed to another, or a type of agency?
Yeah, I mean, well, type of agency, I don't know if I can speak to that. Marlena and Audrina maybe can address that. But there are definitely agencies that are better performers than others. And there are some that they've achieved 100%, and we congratulate them on their performance.
I just wondered if you could see a distinction between administrative agencies and institutional agencies.
Authorities and the like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the major authority in terms of numbers of employees is MTA, and MTA has worked with them very closely in 2024, 2025, and they're way up there in compliance. They're doing a phenomenal job.
To answer your question, Commissioner Groenwegen, the population of employees that we noticed that fell out of compliance generally were, not surprising to us, your academics. Your academics were the largest population of folks that were having the biggest difficulty and who were doing the most outreach with. To provide you with an example, for that priority population, for the first round of that email outreach that we conducted, priority population notifications towards, we had around 31,800 emails that were sent out. We were able to do some analytics in part with and thanks to the communications unit who upgraded their existing plan and provided us with some analytics. We were able to do some data dive there, and we came to the realization that the majority of the individuals who had not yet opened the email were actually our academics. So we're in the process right now of doing specific agency outreach so that we can connect with those folks and come up with a more strategic plan in addressing those issues.
Thank you.
Yeah, we targeted them last summer. We thought it would be effective getting them during break. And it worked to some extent, but obviously not completely.
And we do continue to have executive branch agencies as well. I just don't also want to pinpoint our, our SUNYs and CUNYs. We do have executive branch agencies as well who not only utilize our statewide learning management system, but also have access to their own learning management system. A great example is Department of Health. We've had issues with them in the past with regards to being able to update employee records. Despite all of our consistent outreach and messaging, a big push for us this year is ensuring that all agencies are aware that our COLIG statewide ethics training application is the true application of record when it comes to training and tracking those two mandated ethics courses. So other than SUNYs and CUNYs, we do have some issues with executive branch agencies that we're also trying to mitigate right now with regards to that. However, the good news is that our outreach efforts are working. We noticed a significant increase in our existing enrollments. We're pretty much at full capacity right now for April. Another goal for us is to make sure that agencies are utilizing us appropriately. We have come to the determination that we, in our current structure, despite the fact that we are understaffed, in our current structure, we're able to train approximately 18% of the state workforce, which can come out to around 62,000 employees per year that COLIG, our small COLIG training unit, is able to train. However, agencies are underutilizing us. So, a goal for us with respect to 2026 and future years is ensuring that agencies, continue to utilize us as a resource when it comes to delivering live training. We are in the process of doing round 2 of this priority outreach, so we're going to expect and hopefully see another spike for our May enrollments as well.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Commissioner Edwards.
Milena, do you have any insight as to why we continue to be underutilized by the agencies?
That's a great question. Commissioner Edwards, we are in the process of working with legal staff. They are in the process of developing what they're calling an ethics officer mentorship program. The first phase in that ethics officer mentorship program was to develop a really great survey and evaluation system. And a lot of the questions that we are targeting for around 468 agency users, and agency users, once again, comprise ethics officers, any training staff, HR, any type of agency contact that has an interest in training, will be receiving that evaluation in the next couple of weeks. And these are some of the questions that we are asking and trying to get data back on, trying to understand some of the barriers when it comes to agencies being able to train their employees and why they're underutilizing COLIG staff as a resource.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the other thing that continues to puzzle me, and we've been discussing it at some length, is the underutilization of the on-demand course. If you look at the statistics for 2025, the ratio of live to on-demand is 4:1. And in any given year, because of the way we're trying to cycle and the way the statute is set up, so it's live training alternating with on-demand in the following year in terms of the individual. Our goal from the beginning had been to have half the workforce in live training in a year, with the other half in on-demand, and then they would reverse positions so that the capacity of the system would not have to grow to hit the bumpiness of everybody taking live training in 1 year and then nothing happens the following year, but on-demand. But for reasons having to do partly with preference of agencies and maybe more significantly, some of the data challenges that agencies are having in capturing the data when their employees are taking on-demand training, mistakenly taking on-demand training when they're not eligible to, or they're due for live training. Those numbers have been depressed. And it takes away the leverage we would have. As Marlena said, we could train 60,000 people just with our current capacity. If the total required in a given year were 165,000, we would be hitting a really high percentage of the live total. But some agencies prefer live only.
And to provide a little bit of additional texture to what Executive Director Berlin is stating, it's not that the on-demand is underutilized, it's that the on-demand is being used incorrectly by agencies. So what I mean by that is that because the on-demand is currently available for executive branch agencies under the statewide learning management system, and despite our consistent communications either through direct agency outreach, we recently presented at the trainer directors roundtable meeting in order to address this concern back in March, is to inform agencies that they need to stop mass enrolling all of their employees into the on-demand every single year. That's the main issue that we're trying to mitigate for this year. That's also another data point that we've also cemented in this last priority outreach, is that we had agencies who were treating the on-demand as if they would treat any other compliance training, whether it's fire safety as an example, or internal control safety, or things of that nature, or cybersecurity training. They're mass enrolling all of their employees, and the issue is that those employees then go into their learning management system, think that they are okay, that they're compliant for the year, when in fact they were required to take live training, you know, for that year. So it's not that it's not being utilized. The issue for us is that it's being utilized incorrectly, and that's why we're seeing a trend for Q4 and the beginning of this year, where more agencies are moving into a live-only ethics training policy for their agency, because for them, the administration is too difficult for them. They're not understanding that pretty simple concept that if you took live training last year, you're eligible to take on-demand this year. So to avoid that, and to also avoid situations where agencies, ethics officers, training staff, maybe HR, are not readily communicating with each other, the simplest way for them to administer our ethics training policy is just to do live only. And we have seen a huge success rate for those agencies that are doing a live only policy.
So that's something new to me. So you're saying that employees are not required to do on demand. They both can do, they can meet their requirement by undergoing 2 live training sessions.
What I'm trying
one.
To allow me to clarify, what I'm saying is that you have your ethics officer, who's generally the individual within the agency who's responsible for administering ethics training on behalf of the entire agency. And sometimes that agency can be 50 to 100 people. Other times it can be 5,000. And within that same agency, you may have a training director who is responsible for administering all of the other compliance trainings, whether it's your cybersecurity, your fire safety, your internal control. That individual is mass enrolling all of their employees to take the on-demand for every single year, and that's not the correct protocol. Instead, those individuals need to go into our colleague ethics training application and just pull out the population of employees that are eligible to take the on-demand. So when we do this priority population outreach, or when we conduct direct employee outreach, we notice there's a significant number of employees who think they're okay, who think they're compliant for the year, when in fact they were not. They were required to take live training that year. So something that we're doing for 2026 is, once this first round of the priority population has been handled and the records are updated in our system, which we are well underway in accomplishing, we will be sending out customized spreadsheets to every single agency, identifying for each agency specifically only the population of those employees who are eligible to take it on demand, so that we can overcome this barrier and make sure that only the employees that are eligible to take it are taking it, and everyone else can either be directed to us to take live training, or they can take live training within their own internal agency.
Okay, thank you.
And let me add that on that subject, generally speaking, as we discussed at the March meeting, the training unit put together a detailed revision of the 3-year plan, the 2026 through 2028
Right.
Training plan, which has been circulated to the members of the Education Committee for consideration. The expectation is that the committee will review that plan. We'll have further discussions, and rather than presenting that plan, which I think is quite impressive, at this commission meeting, we'll defer that to the May meeting if that's acceptable.
Well, actually, I was going to mention that. And
Oh,
we did receive the plan, and I will concur that it seems, it's very detailed, and it apparently looks very well done. I did share it with our committee members, and we had planned to ask to tape, and as you know, we were supposed to come back to you with an updated action plan based on lessons learned from by the staff during the first round of full employee training between 2022, 2024. We received the plan, but we received it on the 13th of March. And that really didn't give us enough time to look at it, to examine the plan and to understand the extent to which changes need to be made to the action plan approved last year. And so asking once again to table that discussion until the May Commission meeting.
Okay. Any
Are there
questions?
any thank you. That ends my, unless there are other questions, that ends my Education Committee report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Edwards.
Welcome.
No questions? I don't, legislation, there's no appropriate legislation.
Yeah.
All right, so the next item is our proposed meeting schedule for July through December. It's in tab G. I know this year we tried to meet a little earlier in September since we were not having an August meeting. Is it possible for us to move up that 23rd, September 23rd proposed date to September 16th?
we were butting up against the holiday, so we're sort of squeezing the meeting in. I know it's a little bit later than we had hoped.
I don't, with the holidays though.
The Jewish holidays are the second week.
The 20th, the 21st, I think the 11th, the 12th.
And Labor Day is also late this year. The Labor Day is later this year.
So it's also creating a challenge in preparing the agenda and the materials. If I should add, discuss this, if it becomes necessary, whether because of matters being handled by investigations and enforcement or other matters come up, we will figure out a way to schedule a special meeting.
I mentioned to you, I can't be available for the 21st.
Yes, for July.
Where are we in May and June?
What was the answer?
That was previously approved. Those dates were previously approved for July and June, May and June.
And if commissioners need to check their schedules, we can defer the vote until next month. And we can take another look at September. I mean, if we can move it from, they have to change it from a Wednesday to another day, which I'm kind of reluctant to do because a number of folks have their schedules built around the Wednesday meeting day.
So you're proposing the 16th of September as a new date?
Yeah, I don't think the 16th will work, just in terms of the dynamics of getting the book out and the Jewish holidays, but we might be able to find another day.
Okay.
It just may not be a Wednesday. Or the alternative would be to have a special meeting if matters come up.
So let's leave it for the 23rd for now, but why don't we take a final vote on it next month?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I should say we deliberately pushed the July meeting to as late as possible. That's creating an issue. Anyway, we can move that up and maybe do an early August meeting. You take another look at that.
We can't do early August.
Well, sometime mid-August.
Can-
We don't have that gap.
I think August is a difficult month. So.
It is just absolutely. You know, we were trying to avoid that, and typically we do an early September meeting.
Commissioner Edwards has her hand up.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, we always have a problem in December. And with the Christmas holidays and other commitments made as a result of holiday celebrations. And I wonder if we would since most of us live in the New York City region, I wonder would it make sense to have the December meeting in New York?
The reason we've been having it in Albany is because that's the day that we have a joint meeting
Oh, with the
with the staff.
staff. Yeah, okay, I got it. Right. I withdraw that.
All right, so we'll take this up for final approval next.
Okay.
Is there any new or other business?
There is the application. Well, we would address it first in executive session in case there are any questions that commissioners have.
So we'll take that up after our executive session.
After we return.
Okay. So the next item, so is there a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105 and Executive Law 9411 to address matters concerning employment of personnel, pending litigation, and investigative and enforcement and other matters that is confidential pursuant to Section 94 of the Executive Law, Section 105 of the Public Officers.
So moved.
Seconded.
By Chair, seconded by Commissioner Edwards. All in favor? Aye. All right, so now move into executive session and we'll return later today to the public session.
You're live.
All right, so we're returning to the public session for the Commission on Ethics and Lobbying in Government, our meeting of April 22nd, 2026. Executive Director Berlin, would you give us the readout of what was accomplished in the executive session?
Thank you, Chair James. In executive session, the Commission discussed matters related to litigation or legal advice. The Commission discussed an application for an exemption from post-employment restrictions pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 73(8)(b). The Commission discussed informal guidance pursuant to Executive Law, Section 94, subsection 7A. The Commission discussed a formal opinion pursuant to Executive Law, Section 94(7)(c). And the Commission authorized steps in several investigative matters, closed 10 matters, and discussed several other investigative matters.
And thank you. New and other business, there is an additional item on for discussion. The request for exemption from the post-employment restrictions pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 73(8)(b), made by Homes and Community Renewal. Stan, do you want to discuss this with us?
This is a request for, this is a request from Homes and Community Renewal for leave to contract with a soon-to-be former employee to perform services that he would otherwise not be allowed to do because of the post-employment restrictions. They want this person to work approximately half-time for about a year at roughly half pay to help train his replacement and to help complete an ongoing IT project. His job involves a lot of complex financial instruments and does require expertise.
Is there a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Commissioner Carr, second by Commissioner Caraballo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. All right, thank you. Is there any other new business? All right, is there a motion to adjourn? So. Thank you. Yeah, it's like that. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Caraballo, Commissioner Carr seconded. Thank you, we are adjourned.